Did you know that Australia's economy is on the brink of a collapse that could make your life a lot harder than it already is? You might be feeling the pinch at the supermarket or struggling to keep up with rising rent, but the truth is, the worst is yet to come. In fact, a staggering 80% of Australians are already feeling the squeeze. Paychecks aren't stretching as far as they used to, and basic living costs are climbing faster than wages. It's not just a temporary setback, it's a ticking time bomb that's about to explode. What if I told you that within the next few years, thousands of jobs could disappear, leaving you scrambling to make ends meet? And it's not just about money, it's about your daily quality of life. Think about the last time you went grocery shopping. How much more did you pay for everyday essentials? That's just the beginning. From soaring energy bills to a crumbling housing market, Australia's economic crisis is something you won't be able to ignore. Stay with me until the end of this video, because I'm going to reveal 10 shocking reasons why your life is about to get much harder, and how these changes will impact every single Australian, whether you see it coming or not. Trust me, this is information you need to hear. Number 1. Rising cost of living. Imagine this. You walk into your local supermarket and you're hit with a shock at the checkout. The same groceries you bought just a few weeks ago now cost you 20 to 30% more. It's not your imagination. This is happening across Australia. The cost of living is skyrocketing, and it's affecting every Australian, whether you're renting, owning a home, or just trying to make ends meet. But why is this happening? First, let's talk about inflation. Over the past year, inflation rates have been climbing steadily. In 2023, the inflation rate in Australia hit a 30-year high, with prices on everything from food to fuel rising at alarming rates. When the cost of essential goods rises, it doesn't just hurt your wallet. It impacts your entire lifestyle. Now, food prices are one of the most obvious culprits. Basic items like milk, bread, and meat are becoming luxuries, with some products increasing by as much as 50% in just a few months. So, what does this mean for you? Simply put, it means that Australians are paying more for less, while wages are stagnant and not keeping up with the inflationary pressures. What's more, the cost of living doesn't just affect the rich or the poor, it affects everyone. From those struggling to find affordable housing, to middle-income earners who are barely keeping up with rent and utility bills, no one is safe. The challenge is real, and the worst part? It's unlikely to get any better soon. So, how can you fight back against rising living costs? Stay tuned, because in the next section we'll explore the housing crisis and how this silent issue is contributing to the economic storm many Australians are facing. Number 2. Housing crisis and increased rent. Picture this. You've been working hard, saving up for a home, dreaming of a place to call your own. But when you check the property market, you feel like that dream is slipping further and further away. Home prices in Australia have soared, making it nearly impossible for first-time buyers to enter the market. And if you're renting, it's not much better. Rent prices are at an all-time high, forcing many Australians to either downsize, move further out, or even face the harsh reality of being unable to afford decent accommodation at all. So, what's driving this housing crisis? It's a combination of factors. Demand is outpacing supply as more people flock to cities like Sydney and Melbourne, but the construction of new homes isn't keeping up with the growing population. On top of that, interest rates have risen, making it harder for buyers to afford mortgages and leaving many stuck renting for longer periods. So, what can you do about it? While buying a home may seem out of reach for many, there are strategies to cope with the soaring rent prices. We'll discuss some tips on finding affordable housing alternatives, negotiating rent prices, and even considering regional areas as potential options. But be warned, the housing crisis is far from over, and its ripple effects will continue to shape the future of many Australians. In the next section, we'll take a closer look at how stagnant wages are making it even harder to stay afloat financially. Stay with us. Number 3. Stagnant wages versus inflation. Here's a harsh reality check. While the cost of living has been rising, wages haven't kept pace. In fact, wage growth in Australia has been stagnant for years, and many Australians are now facing a real decline in their purchasing power. This means that no matter how hard you work, your income isn't going as far as it used to, and it's starting to show. The very things you could easily afford a few years ago, groceries, rent, even a night out, are now becoming luxuries that you have to cut back on. Let's break this down. In 2023, while inflation was hitting an alarming 7%, average wages were only growing by around 2 to 3%. This discrepancy is a massive problem because it means that everyday Australians are seeing their hard-earned money being eaten up by the rising prices of goods and services. So even if you're getting a pay raise, it's nowhere near enough to cover the additional costs of living. The wage to inflation gap is affecting not just lower income workers, but also middle class families who used to be able to live comfortably. Now they're forced to rethink budgets, cut back on essentials, and constantly search for ways to stretch their dollars further. So, what can you do in the face of this financial squeeze? In the next section, we'll discuss how underemployment is adding to the pressure and why you may be working more than you realize without seeing the income to match. Stay tuned, because there's much more to uncover about how this silent economic crisis is hitting Australians hard. Number 4, unemployment and underemployment. Let's face it, finding a job in today's economy is tough. But even harder is finding a job that pays enough to meet the rising cost of living. While Australia's official unemployment rate may seem low, the real problem lies in underemployment, a situation where people have jobs but not enough hours to sustain a decent standard of living. This is where millions of Australians are getting stuck. Underemployment affects almost 8% of the workforce, and that number is only growing. So, what does this mean for you? If you're one of the many Australians struggling to secure full-time, stable employment, you're likely juggling multiple part-time or casual jobs, but still not earning enough to cover your living expenses. Even if you have a job, it might not be providing you with the hours or pay that you need to keep up with increasing costs. But it doesn't end there. Temporary and contract work is becoming more common, leading to a workforce that feels stuck and unable to plan for the future. This uncertainty means that even those who are employed full-time are facing anxiety about their long-term job prospects. So, how do you navigate this ever-changing job market? In the next section, we'll dive into how rising energy prices are adding to your financial burden and what you can do to manage these rising costs. Stay with us because the challenges are only getting bigger. Number 5, energy prices skyrocketing. Imagine this. You've just opened your latest energy bill and your jaw drops as you see the staggering increase. Electricity and gas prices in Australia have been climbing at a rapid pace, and for many households, it's becoming impossible to keep up. In fact, over the last year, energy prices have risen by as much as 20 to 30%, and experts predict that this upward trend is only going to continue. So why are energy prices soaring? It's a combination of factors, but the biggest contributors are global supply chain disruptions and domestic energy production challenges. For instance, Australia is heavily reliant on fossil fuels for its energy, but fuel shortages and global market instability are pushing prices to record highs. And with government subsidies being reduced and climate policies pushing for greener alternatives, the cost of energy continues to rise without a clear solution in sight. For most Australians, this means their electricity and gas bills are becoming a major financial burden. Whether it's heating your home during winter, cooling it in summer, or powering all the devices you rely on, energy costs are becoming an ever larger chunk of your monthly expenses. In the next section, we'll take a deep dive into Australia's growing public debt and how government cutbacks might affect you and the services you rely on. Stick with us to understand how these challenges will continue to compound. Number 6, public debt and government cutbacks. Australia's public debt is rising at an alarming rate, and it's starting to affect the very services that Australians rely on every day. As the government grapples with increasing debt levels, it's becoming clear that budget cuts to public services may be the painful consequence of this financial strain. But what does this mean for you and your family? Right now, Australia's national debt is sitting at a staggering over $900 billion, and it's projected to grow even higher in the coming years. This rising debt is largely a result of government spending during the pandemic and the need to stimulate the economy. However, as the country emerges from these economic challenges, paying off that debt is becoming a priority. And the unfortunate reality is that the government is looking at making cuts across various sectors to free up the necessary funds. This means fewer resources for healthcare, education, and other public services that many Australians depend on. For instance, you may see longer wait times at hospitals, reduced access to mental health services, and cuts to public school funding. But there's more. As the government works to reduce its debt, taxes may increase, putting further pressure on household budgets. Additionally, social welfare programs may be trimmed, leaving those who rely on government support to get by in a difficult position. So, what can you do in the face of these potential cuts? While there's little you can do to change government policy, it's important to stay informed about how these shifts may affect your access to essential services. In the next section, we'll explore how global economic shifts are contributing to the strain on Australia's economy and what you can do to protect yourself. Stay tuned. Number 7. Impact of global economic shifts. Australia's economy isn't just affected by what happens within its own borders. Global economic shifts are playing a massive role in shaping the financial landscape, and it's not looking good. From supply chain disruptions to international trade tensions, these global factors are creating a ripple effect that is making life even harder for Australians. One of the biggest impacts comes from global supply chain issues, which have caused prices for goods to spike. Shipping costs have skyrocketed due to port congestion, and raw materials are harder to come by, pushing up the prices of everything from electronics to construction materials. This in turn affects local businesses and ultimately consumers. If you've noticed that everyday products seem to cost more, it's because these global disruptions are hitting Australia hard, especially with its reliance on imported goods. What does this mean for you? It's simple. The cost of everyday goods is only going to get higher as long as these global pressures continue. And it's not just about inflation, it's about job security too. If global markets continue to shift, Australian businesses may struggle to stay afloat, leading to more job cuts or business closures. So, how can you brace for this? Diversifying your income streams, staying flexible in your career, and keeping a close eye on global economic news can help you stay one step ahead. In the next section, we'll look into how the declining trust in financial institutions is adding to the uncertainty and stress in Australia's economy. Stay tuned. Number 8. Decline in trust in financial institutions. If you've been following the news lately, you've probably noticed a growing trend. Australians are losing trust in their financial institutions. Whether it's banks, investment firms, or superannuation providers, many Australians feel that these institutions are no longer acting in their best interests. In fact, a recent survey revealed that over 40% of Australians expressed a lack of confidence in their financial institutions. And this erosion of trust could have far-reaching consequences for the economy and for your financial future. Why is this happening? For starters, many Australians feel that the big banks are simply getting too big and are prioritizing profits over their customers' well-being. The Royal Commission into Banking exposed shocking misconduct, including instances of unfair fees, mistreatment of customers, and even fraudulent behavior. The worst part? As confidence in banks and financial services continues to plummet, people are turning to alternative solutions like investing in property, cryptocurrency, or even private financial groups. However, these alternatives come with their own set of risks, and the lack of transparency and regulation in some of these markets can make things even more volatile. So, what can you do? One important step is to diversify your financial portfolio so you're not reliant on a single institution or investment type. It's also crucial to stay informed and shop around for financial services that align with your values and needs. Up next, we'll explore how Australia's aging population is putting additional strain on the country's healthcare system and economy. Stay with us. Number 9. Aging population and healthcare strain. Australia is facing a demographic shift that's set to put tremendous pressure on the nation's healthcare system. The number of elderly Australians is growing rapidly, and with it, the demand for healthcare services is soaring. By 2050, it's estimated that nearly 1 in 4 Australians will be aged 65 or older. This demographic change is not just a statistic, it's a reality that's already beginning to affect healthcare services, pushing them to their limits. So, what does this mean for you? If you're nearing retirement age or have elderly parents, you've likely already noticed the strain on public healthcare. Longer wait times for hospital treatments, more demand for aged care services, and a shortage of healthcare workers are just a few of the growing challenges. While Australia's healthcare system is generally regarded as one of the best, it's struggling to keep up with the needs of an aging population. In addition, the burden on public hospitals is only increasing. With a larger percentage of the population requiring ongoing medical care, the resources available for general healthcare are becoming stretched thin. This means that younger Australians may face longer wait times for essential treatments, or in some cases may not have access to the level of care they've come to expect. So, how can you prepare for this? Private health insurance might become a more necessary expense in the coming years, and taking proactive steps to maintain your health could reduce the strain on the system. In the next section, we'll explore how Australia's crumbling infrastructure is affecting daily life and what it means for your future. Stay tuned. Number 10. Deteriorating infrastructure. Australia's infrastructure is starting to show serious signs of wear and tear, and it's impacting everyday life in ways many Australians may not realize. From crumbling roads and overcrowded public transport to outdated digital networks, the country's infrastructure is struggling to keep pace with its growing population and the demands of modern life. And as this infrastructure continues to deteriorate, it's not just an inconvenience, it's becoming a major economic and social problem. One of the most noticeable signs of this deterioration is transport congestion. Major cities like Sydney and Melbourne are experiencing traffic gridlock like never before. Roads are congested, public transport systems are stretched to their limits, and commute times are growing longer every day. For many Australians, this means spending hours each week stuck in traffic, losing valuable time that could be spent working, relaxing, or with family. But the issue goes beyond just time. It's also about productivity and the economic impact of inefficient transportation systems. When people are wasting time in traffic or struggling to find reliable public transport, the entire economy suffers. So, what can be done about it? The government will need to invest significantly in infrastructure upgrades, but this comes at a cost. Australians may have to deal with higher taxes or increased costs of living as these projects are funded. In the meantime, finding ways to adapt to these infrastructure challenges, such as working remotely or seeking alternatives to traditional commuting, may help ease the burden. Next, we'll summarize how all these challenges are stacking up and why the road ahead may be tougher than we expect. Stay with us. As we've seen today, Australia's economic crisis is not just a future concern, it's already happening and it's only going to get harder. From skyrocketing living costs to stagnant wages, housing struggles, and an overwhelmed healthcare system, these challenges are piling up in ways that most of us can't ignore. For many Australians, it's a daily battle to stay afloat, and for others, it's an uncertain future that's hard to navigate. The truth is, these issues will continue to affect us all, no matter where we live or what we do. I know this video might have been tough to hear, but it's essential to be aware of the reality we're facing. The uncertainty, the pressure, the struggle, it's all very real, and that's why it's so important to stay informed, prepared, and connected. By sharing these stories and shedding light on the harsh truths about Australia's economic future, I hope we can start a conversation and, most importantly, help each other face these challenges together. If you found this video valuable, I urge you to subscribe to the Globetrotter channel. Creating these types of videos is incredibly difficult, as they require in-depth research and careful consideration of the issues at hand. But your support makes all the difference, not just to me, but to the wider community who relies on this information. By subscribing, you're helping ensure that these important topics continue to get the attention they deserve. Please like this video, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and share it with others who might need to hear this information. Together, we can make sure that no one feels alone in facing these challenges. Thank you for being part of the Globetrotter family. Your support means everything, and we can make it through these tough times, one step at a time.